Good morning, Rabbi Green.
Good morning, Alan. Okay. Okay, I'm going to start the learning sponsors. Is it better for you guys to be over there? Would it be better to be in this? See, all right. Okay. The learning sponsors, Year of Learning by Sue and Arnie Garelick in memory of Malka Perlman and Philip Mann. And Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch and Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch and Henya Rivka Pro Rosna bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch. In memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends. In memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edelbas Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, and Martha Gitler, Charna Bad Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova Bad Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef ben Chaim. Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine, in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bad Asher. Of Nina Monester, Nechama Asna Bad Yitzchak Aharon. A month of learning by the Boca Babes, in memory of their dear friend Susan Wertman, Chaya Sarah Bad Alta Yosef. Chaim and Phyllis Reese, in memory of his father, Mordechai ben Yom Tov Lipa. Myself and wife Karen and friends, in memory of her mother, Nechama Bad Moshe HaKohen. Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his father, Meir ben Yaakov. Marcia Federbush, in memory of her father, Menachem Mendel ben Shlomo. Ruvain and Susan Podolsky, in memory of his mother, Fredel Bashraga Feivel. Phyllis and Chaim Reese, in memory of her father, Pinchas ben Abraham. Rebecca, Lewis, and Susan Wotonsky, in memory of their dear aunt and sister, Miriam Bad Yosef Devorah. Today being the 30th of November, we have a day of learning by Jay and Florence Levy, in memory of his mother, Yita Bat Rav Ephraim, by Morty and Millie Rasner, in memory of his mother, Tzipa Bas Nachum, and by Ralph and Honey Chaffetz, in memory of his mother, Esther Liba Bat Yehoshua. And the Shemas Heaven Aliyah, Kranka Rafia, Velti Yashir, Rasham Matzliah, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good Gaben Shkia.
What's the story for tomorrow?
That's the question. That's exactly the question. Mel asks, what's the story for tomorrow? This afternoon, ladies from Sisterhood are coming to decorate the tables and everything for Hanukkah. So we have to see what. That's why I'm looking. Well, that's one option. The downside of that option is that it's difficult for some people with large Gemaras to balance it. Okay, so I'm looking at how many we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Better than sure. That is good. You're right.
Excuse me, I'm leaving tomorrow morning early.
Okay, so that's the other option. That's why, but that, again, I wanted to see in terms of how many we are. Okay, I see 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Cut this side.
What?
Cut this
Yes,
side.
yes. I started with you guys. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe 12. It's not going to be here tomorrow morning, and Michael's away. I don't know. I mean, we can fit 11, 12 guys around the tables. It's a little bit closer, but it would work.
Yeah.
right? So we'll see.
absolutely.
All right, if we've had that many in there, and it would still give us tables for the Gemaras.
Yeah.
All right. So we may have to wait till we make the announcement in the morning to know. Okay. All right. If I can find out earlier, we'll let people know. Okay. All right. Okay. So where are we on Yud Chet? Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right, Yud Chet. Yesterday, Zev, I have to apologize, first of all, to you. Yesterday, you were right. I did the wrong Tehillim yesterday afternoon. I went home and checked with my wife, and she said, no, yesterday you did. You should have done 88 yesterday.
Well, I kept asking you.
I know. I said, you were right. You're right. That's why a public apology. Okay. So let's start off where we try to be in the Gemara, and maybe we'll start the day better today, especially since David is back, and I'll let him do the Mishnah Yomi and the.
Yeah.
All right, that was the problem. All right, so we got to a point. Marav Papa Kada Amarav. All right, on the bottom, Lo nitzracha ela le'asor yom shelafanav. Hachanami lo nitzracha ela le'asor yom shela'acharav. Kiman, we said on the top of Yud Chet Amud Aleph, right? Kirabi Yossi, the Amar bein lefanav bein la'acharav asur. And that's where we stopped yesterday, right? That Rabbi Yossi says it was needed because we're concerned about the fact of still we're going to get to the 28th of Adar as the date. Amar, right? Ihachi, says the Gemara, third line down on Yud Chet. Okay, that's where we're starting. Ihachi be'esrim v'tisha nami. So he's claiming, why did it have to say Rosh Chodesh? If it had said simply the 29th, right? Instead of Rosh Chodesh Nisan, why did it have to refer to that? Okay. My area dahave yoma de makame, yoma de mitukam tamida. Maybe we're going to say it was specifically said such and such a manner, so that it's because it's the day before the establishment of the Tamid. So the Gemara says, hold on a second. If that's going to be your rationale, Tepukle, the Havale Yoma de Batar Esrin Batamanayan Bay. If that's the case, we could have learned it based on the fact that it was the day after the 29th of Adar, right? The Tanya, as we learn elsewhere in a Braita, Be'esrim Batamanayan Bay on the 29th, right? 28th, I'm sorry, Be'esrim Batamanayan, right, on the 28th Bay, right? Atat b'shorta the tavata lihudai the lo yudun min oraita. Okay, he could say therefore that on the 28th there, okay, you have good news for the Jews, right? Why? The lo yudun min oraita, that it's not restricted, okay, to the Torah there. Shapam echad nigzera gzera al Yisrael. As the story goes now, that one time there was decrees against the Jewish people. Shelo ya'asku b'Torah, that they could not be involved in Torah study. V'shelo yimolu et b'neihem, and they cannot circumcise their sons. V'yishechalalu Shabbatot, and they would have to desecrate the Shabbat. Ma'asa Yehuda ben Shamua v'chaverav. What did Yehuda ben Shamua and his colleagues do? Holchu v'natlu eitza mimatronita. Okay, they went to see a certain noble woman who used to host the Roman authorities. Okay, all right, and what happened? Shekol gedolei Romi mitzuyin etzla. That all of the authorities, the powers that be of Rome, okay, would also visit, right? Amra lehem, and she suggested to them as follows: Amdu v'hafkinu balayla. Go and stand and make some sort of declaration, a strike, so to speak, a hafkana. All right, that's what the word in modern Hebrew is. At night, halchu v'hifkinu b'layla. They went and protested. I'll use that phrase at night. Amru, and they said as follows: Ay shemayim, woe heaven, lo achim anachnu, aren't we brothers? In other words, thinking back that Rome is the descendant of Esav, and therefore Esav and Yaakov were brothers, right? Lo b'nei av echad anachnu, aren't we the children of one father? Lo b'nei em achat anachnu, aren't we the children of one mother? Okay. Ma nishtanenu mikol oma v'lashon. How are we any different from any other people or any other language? She'atem gozrim aleinu gzerot ra'ot, that you decree upon us all sorts of terrible decrees. Ubatlum, and the Romans nullified them. Va'oto hayom asa'uhu yom tov. And that same day, they established it as a Yom Tov. Okay? Now, Amar Abaye says, Lo nitzrecha ela lechodesh me'ubar. According to Abaye, he says, the reason we needed to say that it should be that we included Rosh Chodesh Nisan in the Braita is because we're Adar to become extend a full month, right? In other words, 30 days instead of 29. Okay, therefore we would know that if the 29th was a holiday and Rosh Chodesh was a holiday, then that day in between, that 30th day, because it's a day before a holiday or a day after, okay, even then that would be, according to Megillat Ta'anit, prohibited from doing certain things. Okay, that's the point. All right, so that's Abaye's rationale. Okay, let's go on now. Rav Ashi is going to give a slightly different shot, explanation. Rav Ashi Amar, afilu tema lechodesh chaser. Even if we're going to say, says Rav Ashi, that Adar was not a full month, but a 29-day month. And that was the last day of the month, right? Kol shela acharav, what follows after it, b'ta'anit asur behesped mutar. Regarding fasting, it's forbidden, but regarding eulogies, it would be permitted. V'zeh, and regarding this, ho'il umutal bein shnei yamim tovim, since, says Rav Ashi, it falls between 2 days that are considered a Yom Tov, the
Rosh Chodesh.
Rosh
And
Chodesh
the 28th.
and the 28th, right, exactly. Asahu ki Yom Tov atzmo, they made that day a Yom Tov by itself. Va'afilu, right, behesped nami asur. And therefore, even regards to eulogies, it is prohibited. Okay, now we come back again. Our Gemara reviews something we've said previously as a new item. Amar Mar, the master said, mitamnaya be va'ad sof mo'adah. Okay, from the 8th of Nisan, we said until the end of the festival, the end of Pesach, right? Itutav Chaga de Shavuaya. They reestablished, so to speak, the holiday of Shavuos. Delola mispad, not to eulogize on it. Lama li lamemar mitamnaya be, asks the Gemara, why was it necessary to say from the 8th on, right? Lema mitisha be v'timnaya. Okay, why don't they say from the 9th on? Okay, and the 8th, gufe asur, and the 8th, right, itself would be prohibited. Dahavale yoma de'itukam be tamida, because that was the day before which they established the Tamid. And the day before, we said already through Megillat Ta'anit, mispad was forbidden. So the Gemara tells us, Kevan de ilu miklale milta ubatline, since something terrible or bad could have happened, all right, and therefore they could have nullified it, all right, okay, in that case, right, okay, they could have canceled the 7 days commemorating the establishment of the Tamid, all right, or Batlina Leshiva. Timnaya Gufe Asur, the 8th day itself then would be prohibited. The Havale Yoma Kama de Itutav Be Chaga de Shvuaya, because then that would have been the day before they established the period for Shavuos. Okay, okay. Gemara continues. Hashta da atit lahachi. Now that you've arrived to this conclusion, let's say, Esrim Vatisha Nami, the 29th of Adar again, also. Kevan de ilu mikle milta ubatline leesrim utmanaya. If it's possible that they could, something bad could have occurred, and they could have nullified that,
The 28.
right? The 28th. Esrim Vatisha Gufe Asur. The 29th itself would have been prohibited for eulogies. The Havale Yoma, the Mekame Yoma, the Itukam Tamida, because then it would have been the day preceding the day when they established the Tamid. So the Gemara continues, Itmar, about this the following was said, right? Rabbi Chia bar Asi Amar, he says in the name of Rav, Halacha ka Rabbi Yossi. The law is like Rabbi Yossi. Ushmuel Amar, Halacha ka Rabbi Meir. But Shmuel said the law was like Rabbi Meir. Umei Amar Shmuel Hachi. And did Shmuel really say this? Vahatanya. Don't we have a Braita that teaches? Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, he says. Umat Talmud Lomar. And where the text teaches Bahon Shtei Pa'amim, that the pasuk says twice the word Bahon on them, right? Lomar lach, to tell us, Shehein Asurin, that they are prohibited, Lifnehen Ula'achrehen Mutarin, but before them and afterwards it's permitted. Va'amar Shmuel, and Shmuel said in this regard, Halacha ka Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, that the law is according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, and not, it would appear, to be like it was cited before,
Like Shmuel.
okay, that it was like Rabbi Meir. Me'ikara Savar. Originally, he was of the opinion, Kevan de Lekatana de Mekel Rabbi Meir, that since there was no Tana who had come up with a statement that was reflected a leniency like Rabbi Meir, Amar Halacha ka Rabbi Meir. He therefore said he wanted to take a lenient position, Shmuel, and therefore he thought he was choosing the most lenient position by saying the halacha was Rabbi Meir. However, Kevan Desham'e, the Rabban Shimon, once he heard the position of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, the Mekal Tfei, who was even more lenient than Rabbi Meir, right? Amar Halacha ka Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. He said the law was like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. V'chein Amar Bali. That's an interesting name for a sage, right? Or a student of the sages. Okay. The Koran note here was that it could be that was that he was a non-Jew who had converted, okay, and therefore he kept that was his name. Okay. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he said, Halacha ka Rabbi Yossi. The law is like Rabbi Yossi. So what happens? Amar le Rabbi Chia lebali. Rabbi Chia challenged him and said, Asparalach, I'll explain to you the following. Ki amar Rabbi Yochanan halacha ka Rabbi Yossi. When Rabbi Yochanan said that the law is like Rabbi Yossi, adelo it lehit ana, that is in regarding to not allowing fasting. Umi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi, asks the Gemara. And did Rabbi Yochanan really say that? V'ha'amar Rabbi Yochanan. But doesn't Rabbi Yochanan usually say halacha kestam mishnah? That the law is generally follows stam mishnah. And we know that stam mishnah is usually Rabbi Meir, right? Utznan. And elsewhere there's a mishnah or a braita that teaches afal pi sha'amru makdimin v'lo ma'achrin. Even though regards to the observance of when one reads Megillah for Purim. Okay, we normally say in a Mishnah that one advances the date and one doesn't delay the date of the reading, right? We say as we go over to the next Amud, Mutarim behesped v'ta'anit, that it's permitted then in regards to eulogies and fasting. Emat, at what point, at what time? Ilema b'nei chamsar v'kakaru le ba'arbesa. If we're talking about people who live, let's say, in a walled city, where they normally would be reading on the 15th, but for whatever reason they read on the 14th, right? Umishari, is that really permitted? V'haktiv b'Megillat Ta'anit, but isn't it written in Megillat Ta'anit? Yom Arba'a Asar Bo, v'Yom Chamisha Asar Bo, on the 14th day of the month, I'm going to say, and on the 15th day of the month, Yome Puria Inun. These are the days of Purim. I'll translate that for the moment. Delola Mispad Bahon, not to eulogize on them. Va'amar Rava, and says Rava, Lo nitzrecha ele le'asur et shel zeh bazeh ve'et shel zeh bazeh. That the reason it was written was to prohibit those who read on the 14th doing it on the eulogizing on the 15th, or those who read on the 15th eulogizing on the 14th, right? Ve'ela, but rather, says the Gemara with an alternative suggestion, right? B'nei arbisa v'kakari le batlesa. No, maybe we're talking about those who are living in a community where they would normally read it on the 14th, but for a reason they read it on the 13th, right? Yom Nicanorhu, but that is Nicanor Day, which we're going to see about in more detail shortly later on down the bottom of the daf, okay? Ve'ela b'nei, so that doesn't work. That suggestion doesn't work, because Yom Nicanor is already a day written in Megillat Ta'anit, which would say, right? Can't fast, can't eulogize, right? So let's go on. Ve'ela, but rather let's try an alternative again. Maybe B'nei Arbesar, those who live in a 14-day community, V'kakarele B'tresar, and instead they had to read it on the 12th, right? No, that won't work either, says the Gemara. Yom Turianus, that's Trajan Day. Okay, and we're going to get into that in more detail shortly. Okay, what? All right. Ela lav, is it not the kakaru le b'chadisa? No, it may mean that they read it on the chadisa, 11th, right? On the 11th. Ukatani mutar behesped b'ta'anit, and they teach then that it's permitted to have eulogy and mourn and fasting. Lo, no, says the Gemara. B'nei arba'asar, we're talking about those who live in a community where they would normally read on the 14th. V'kakaru le b'tlesa, but they read it on the 12th. Udika amat yom Turianus, and when you raise the possible objection, I'm going to say that that's the day of Trajan, and therefore it's written in Megillas Tanis that you don't do certain things on that day. What happened? Yom Trianus Gufe betule batluhu. They nullified Trajan Day as a holiday. Ho'il v'nehergubo Shmaya v'Achaya Achiv. Why? Because the two brothers, Shmaya and Achia, were killed on that day. And the Gemara is going to give us that story further down on the page. Kiha, the Rav Nachman Gazar Ta'anita Patresa, as in the case when Rav Nachman made a decree for a fast day on the 12th. Amrule Rabbanan, the rabbis said to him, Yom Turianos hu, that's Trajan Day, okay, as if it's a holiday. Amar lahu, says Rav Nachman told them, Yom Turianos Gufe Betule Batluhu. They nullified that day. Ho'il v'nehergu bo Shemaya v'Achia Achi. Since Shemaya and his brother Achia were killed by Trajan, as we're going to see shortly. Okay? So the Gemara picks up and tells us. V'tepukle dahavale yom shelfnei Nicanor. So let's take it out and learn it based on the fact that it was the day before Yom Nicanor Day. Amar Rav Ashi, who says, Hashta ihu gufe batluhu. Here, that itself they nullified. Mishum Yom Nicanor, Nikum v'nigzar, because of Yom Nicanor, should we therefore establish it and make a decree? In other words, that that's going to be a holiday? The Gemara clarifies, Ma'i Nicanor. What is this Nicanor day? Ma'i Tuyanas. What is this Trajan day? Titania, as we learn in a Braita. Nicanor echad me aflachei Yevanim. Nicanor was one of the generals, Greek generals. Yeah, right? Ubechol yom v'yom hayamani fiado al Yehuda v'Yerushalayim. Excuse me. And every day he would wave his hand, like, oh, like all this area kind of thing over Judah and Jerusalem, right? And he would Omer, and he would say, "Ematai tipol biyadi ve'er masena." When is this going to fall into my hand, and I will trample it, destroy it? Ukasher gavra malchut beit Chashmonai v'nitzchun, and when the house of the Hasmoneans, okay, they overcame the Greeks and won that war. Katsatsu bahonot yadav v'raglav. They cut off his thumbs and his big toes. Utzla'um b'sha'arei Yerushalayim, and they hung them on the gates of Jerusalem. V'amru, and they said, Po shahaya medaber b'ga'ava.
The mouth.
Yeah. Oh, peh, right. Peh shahaya medaber b'ga'ava. The mouth. That's why I was thinking they should have cut out his tongue, but they didn't. Okay, the mouth that spoke with such arrogance. V'yadayim shahayu manifot al Yerushalayim, and the hands that waved like that on Jerusalem. Ta'aseh bahem nekama, have therefore carried out their revenge. Yeah. Oh, right. Well, that's interesting because, see, the Maharsha is implying that's why the question of the mouth.
Right.
Okay, that's why I said, when I read it, I first prepared, I said, they should have cut, why is toes? Okay, but the cutting off his head, cutting the head on a pike or on something outside a city gate was not an uncommon means of sending a message. Right? So my Trianus, what about Trajan? Okay, Amru, they said the following story. Kashabikesh Trianus laharog et Kulianus Papus, Achiv Beludkia, when Trajan wanted to kill Lulianus and Pappus, the brothers, in the city of Laodicea, Amar lahem, he said to them, Im me amo shel Hananya, Mishael, va'Azariah atem. If you are from the people, the nation of Hananya, Mishael, va'Azariah, remember the story with Nebuchadnezzar, right? Okay, all right. Yavo Elohechem, v'yatzil etchem miyadi. Let your God come and save you from my hand. K'aderech shehitzil et Hananya, Mishael, va'Azariah miyad Nebuchadnezzar. From the same way, he saved Hananya, Mishael, and Azariah from Nebuchadnezzar. Amrulo, all right, so Lilianus and his brother, then Pappus, responded to Trajan the following: Amrulo, Hananya, Mishael, Azariah, Tzadikim Gemorim hayu, Uru'uyim hayu le'asod lehem nes. They were three of them were very righteous men, and they were worthy of a miracle being done for them. Nebuchadnezzar melech hagun haya, and Nebuchadnezzar was a rightful, I'm going to use that phrase, legitimate, okay, king, okay, that a miracle should be done, okay, in his presence, I'm going to say. Voto Rasha, okay, and this wicked, in other words, referring to Trajan, all right, Hedyatu, he's a normal, no goodnik. Ve'eno ra'oi le'asot nes al yado, and he's not worthy for a miracle to be done in his presence. Va'anu, and we, nitchayavnu kilya lamakom, and we are not righteous. Destruction is due us at the hands of the Almighty. Ve'im ein ata hargenu, and if you don't kill us, harbe hargim yesh lo lamakom. Hashem has many others who could kill us. V'harbe dubim v'arayot yesh lo lamakom ba'olamo. He's got bears and he's got lions in his world, the Almighty. Shepogin banu v'hargino tanu, that they could strike us and they could kill us. Ella lo masarnu hakadosh baruch hu biyadecha, but rather the Kadosh Baruch Hu has only, I'm going to say, given us into your hands. Ela she'atid lefroya damenu miyadecha, that in the future he will demand, right, your blood, okay, as revenge, so to speak, for our blood. So what happens, says the Gemara? Afal pichein hargan miyad. Nevertheless, right, he killed them immediately. Amru lo zazu misham ad shabau diyufle miromi. That no sooner that happened than they did not move from that place when officials from Rome came. And what did they do? Upatzu et mocho begizrin. And they hit his and broke his skull with clubs. In other words, they punished him immediately. Okay, right. Why? Trajan was perhaps plotting to overcome the Caesar, and the Caesar heard about it. Next section, as we finish up this parak, Ein gozrin ta'anit al hatzibur b'tchila b'chamishi v'chuli. We do not make a decree where the fast starts on Thursday. Ein gozrin ta'anit b'roshei chodashim v'chuli. And we also say in Megillat Tani that we don't make a decree of a fast on Rosh Chodesh, okay? And what the Gemara didn't include was the rest of the Mishnah, which said also about a series of fasts. For example, a Monday, Thursday, Monday fast. What happens then if we say that the Rosh Chodesh comes out in between, right? For example, the
Before Shabbos seems to keep coming up over and over and over again.
the Kama Havya Hatchala, okay, and what do we say at the outset? Rav Acha Amar, he says, Shalosh. Okay, we're talking about a series of 3 fasts, right? Rabbi Asi Amar Achat. Rabbi Asi says even a single fast, okay, we shouldn't decree on Thursday, right? Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda in the name Amar Rav. Zo divrei Rabbi Meir. That's the view of Rabbi Meir. She'amar mishum Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. In the name of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Aval chachamim amrim, but the sages say, mitaneh umashlim, that one begins the fast, but one doesn't have to then, has to finish it, complete it on another occasion. The Rash Mar Zutra, Mishmei de Rav Huna, and Rav Mar Zutra gave a drasha and expounding in the name of Rav Huna, halacha mitaneh umashlim. The law is that one begins the fast and completes it on another occasion. Okay? Hadranalach Seder Taniyot Ketzad. Okay, we'll start the next Mishnah and go over just a tiny bit. Seder Taniyot, when we said the order of these fast days. Elu, these, Ha'amur B'Revi'ah Rishonah. This entire procedure, I'm going to say, of how we carry out the fast, focused primarily on the issue of the initial rain, the first potential rainfall, right? Aval tzmachim sheshanu. But if we have a situation where the produce, the plants, changed appearance because of disease, for example, matri'im alehen miyad. We sound the alarm, I'm going to say, immediately. V'chein shepaskug shamim bein geshem legeshem arba'im yom. And likewise, if the rain stops between the early rain and the latter rain, more than 40 days or more, matri'in alehen, we sound the alarm about them. Mipnei shehi makat batzoret, because that's going to indicate that we're being struck with a plague of some kind, a famine. Yordu l'tzmachim, aval lo yordu le'elan. What happens if enough rain came for the plants, but not for the trees? Le'ilan v'lo l'tzmachim, for the trees, but not for the plants. L'zev l'zeh, for this and this, namely trees and plants. Aval lo leborot l'sichin l'ma'arot, but are not enough rainfall to fill the cisterns and the pits and the all sorts of furrows, okay? Those were needed for irrigation purposes or needed for water for animals or things like that. Matri'ina lehen miyad. Again, we sound the alarm immediately. Likewise, furthermore, v'chein ir shelo yerdu aleha gshamim, and also for a city that rain hasn't fallen upon it, as it's written, v'himtarti al ir echat, va'al ir echat lo amtir, that will allow rain to fall on one city, but not on another. Chelka achat timtar v'gomer, or a portion of the land has rain upon it, but not another. Otah ha'ir mit'aneh u'mitra'at. That particular city, as we go over just a little bit, okay, it fasts and it sounds warnings. V'chol savivoteha mit'anot v'lo matriot. And what's surrounding it, we say also fasts, but does not sound warnings. Rabbi Akiva Omer, says Rabbi Akiva, matriot, they sound warnings, v'lo mitanot, but they don't fast. And likewise, a city that might have some sort of a pestilence, right? Or some sort of a mapolet, the buildings crumble, fall down, or earthquake. That city fasts and sounds warnings. And all of the area surrounding it fasts and doesn't make sounds, warnings. Rabbi Akiva Omer, says Rabbi Akiva, matriot velo mitanot. He disagrees and says, no, they sound warnings, but they don't fast. And we're going to stop there for today, and we'll pick up tomorrow wherever we're going to meet. All right? Ezehu Deva. Okay. What kind of pestilence, right? Okay, so I'm going to say, let's, maybe we'll tentatively figure on the library for tomorrow. Okay, because at least I think while the option was going to be as the shul, I think it's difficult to handle the Gemaras there. This way we'll have tables. All right, everybody? Okay.
Okay. Very good. Have a good day, Rabbi.